Welcome to the broadcast tonight. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, of course, joined by Derek Rose, a global witness, and been doing some great work out on the Hopi Reservation with the Hopi prophecies. So we expect you to be asking about that. And I'd like to talk to you about some prophetic things tonight as well, Derek. And I know that you want to talk a little bit about ascension. What's on your mind, my friend?
Oh, well, yeah, we were going to talk about deliverance and ascension.
Ascension.
Yeah, and these things. And so it's, I've had a lot on my mind the past few days, but just like always, I never react to it until I'm told. And it's amazing that, you kind of feel lazy. You're like, well, I'm sitting around, I'm getting all of this stuff and I'm recognizing so many things. And he's like, no, wait, just be patient when I say. And when he says, man, I hit record and I start talking. And I always tell everybody, because they don't believe me, I go, I hit record and start talking. I don't even know half the time what I'm going to talk about. And I don't get to see it until because I make sure, unless I'm adding graphics to it or something that I have to do for an illustration, I don't really know. So when I just do a video, I'll publish that video. And the very first time I see it is when I've uploaded it. So I don't even check to see if there's errors. And that's why there's, errors sometimes, because I don't even check it. I don't want to know it. So I receive it just like everybody else does. So as I've been getting these things, and you and I had mentioned that, we wanted to talk about deliverance and ascension and essentially salvation, because I don't think people, honestly, I don't think that they truly know what it is. They know what they're told it should be, but achieving it, obtaining it, understanding it is an entirely different understanding. And this
let's talk about deliverance. All right, when you're talking about deliverance, me with my background, I think of the old Pentecostal deliverance meetings where we're casting out demons, we're casting out devils, we're healing the sick, sometimes even raising the dead. Is that what you're talking about, deliverance, or are you thinking about something else? More Malia deliverance or more Jeff deliverance?
Well, the funny thing is that probably it's a little bit of all of that, because what I was having a discussion with my mom yesterday, and I was explaining to her that everybody has demons, everyone. When to give you an understanding is that, when you dig into the ancient scriptures, when you dig into the books of Enoch, and you understand that the hybrid beings, right, angels crossed with man, with Homo sapien, you end up with spirits that are eternal. They cannot die. So the body dies and the spirit lives. So where do all of these spirits end up going? They inhabit us. So we live in these spirits, or these spirits live within us. And this is a big problem.
So you're not speaking metaphorically. You think that a lot of people actually have demons.
No question about it. The difference is what we've been told is demons. What we've been, our perception of what a demon is The Exorcist. But a demon is what makes you drink, right? What makes you get drunk. A demon is what makes you look for excuses to attack somebody. A demon is something that's within you that makes you feel dominant when you are in a position of power over somebody, as an excuse to be able to dominate them.
Or makes you feel jealous.
Yes, these are demons. We all have them, right? So it's a terrifying thing. It's a terrifying realization that people don't realize that they have demons. They really don't. And so I try to always help everybody understand that the demons that I'm talking about are slight, because absent of these demons, we are divine. So what's the problem? Absent of demons, we are divine. The divinity in you doesn't dominate another man. The divinity in you doesn't hate another man. The divinity in you doesn't despise and doesn't despair against somebody. The divinity in you doesn't take from somebody or take something that isn't yours. The divinity in you doesn't cause chaos, doesn't cause damage. All the things that we do are caused by demonic activity in us. And that's why there is a culmination of the demonic activity in the world. And that's why the world ultimately ends up at a place where it needs to be destroyed.
So Derek, how do we stay out of the devil made me do it mindset if we feel that way?
The devil made me do it is the excuse.
Gotcha.
Right? That becomes our excuse. All of these little things that we say are just like I spoke to you the last time we talked. When we have these excuses for divine intervention. Oh, what a great coincidence. What an amazing coincidence. Oh, by happenstance, we happened to meet. Oh, I was thinking about her and by accident, she called me, right? There is no such thing. So in the same way that we diminish the divine is the same way that we diminish the power of the enemy that is established in us. We kind of bypass, oh, the devil made me do it. You're damn right the devil made you do it. And why'd you let him?
Right.
Because you're holding that against yourself. You don't recognize it yet, but you are holding that against yourself.
So it's almost like that little demon sitting on your shoulder, cartoon that everybody talks about.
That's exactly it. You got a demon and an angel, and that's the whole point. The angel's you and the demon is him.
And you made a good point to me, I think it was yesterday, we were having a private conversation, that one of the most damaging things, or some of the most damaging things, are the things that you hold against yourself.
Always. Because
please expand on that if you would.
Yeah, because holding things against yourself becomes the excuse. So when I hear somebody say, I'm a real ass, or I'm a real jerk, or the girl that says, I'm a complete bitch. Well, what are you expecting? You've held something against yourself where you were, and now that becomes your excuse, your crutch. It becomes your identity. When you accept these things, you are literally the invitation of these demons in you. So when you accept them and you give them permission and they become your identity, you are that because you've accepted it. And so when we do something wrong against somebody, we can try to rationalize inside ourselves that we did that because of X, Y, Z. That's why I say that,
justify.
Yeah, we justify these things. And that's why I say the reason why Christianity is so willing to accept this God of wrath and vengeance that's a jealous God is because they themselves want to give themselves the excuse of being wrathful and vengeful and jealous. Right? What a perfect God to have in your life. I mean, he's just like I am. Rah! It's nuts. I mean, it becomes the most obvious thing to me when I look around and I watch people. It's like watching demons walk everywhere.
It is.
It truly is. It's like they're everywhere. When I see a preview or something, I don't watch it, but the Living Dead, I'm like, what? We're living it. Just look at everybody.
So how do you not hold stuff against yourself when you do stupid things?
It's hard because there's twofold. First, things that you have to come to terms with what you've done. You've done something stupid. You have to come to terms with that. And you're like, wow, I feel like the rule in that is that I have to hold it against myself.
Right.
But the reality is redemption, salvation, deliverance, being delivered from that thing is being delivered from it, not taking it. Do you see that how this works? Is that you take that upon yourself, you hold it, you identify it, you say, I did that, and then you throw it away. That is repentance. Repentance means to turn away from.
We're back to your cliff analogy. Throw it over the cliff and leave it down there.
Leave it down there and don't let anybody go down and pick it up and bring it back to you. You come up and go, yo, that's not mine. I'm delivered of that a long time ago.
So even if you do something stupid with somebody and you throw it over the cliff and 6 months down the road, they want to bring it back up to you, you just say, oh, that's not mine.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
I left that over there, right? And the whole point of that's why I've given that analogy that says, you come to the edge of that cliff, the people that want to kill themselves. I go, you take everything that's in the backpack that makes you want to kill yourself and you throw that over the cliff. And once you've thrown that over the cliff, you leave that crap down there because that is what was going to kill you. And then anybody that brings it back to you, they're condemning you to that death, saying, I would rather you have jumped over that cliff than to allow you to be forgiven for that.
So that's what's going to kill your life, maybe. That's what's going to kill your dreams. That's what's going to kill your purpose. That's what's going to kill your relationships. Throw it over the cliff and leave it there. And if you're in a relationship with somebody and they throw it over the cliff, you leave it there too. Don't go down there and grab it 6 months later and bring it back and throw it in their face.
You can't. Yeah, you have. Look, this is where what you apply to yourself. This is loving others as you love yourself. right? If you're loving yourself enough to forgive yourself, well, then you better be loving them like you love yourself too.
Absolutely. So there's responsibility on both sides. If we're talking relationships, the person that screwed up says, I screwed up. I'm repenting. I'm throwing it over the edge of the cliff. And part of saying, yes, I forgive you is, okay, I'll leave it over the cliff and I won't go get it.
Yes.
That's transformational, because how many times in our relationships do we have a fight and we get forgiveness, but 2 or 3 fights down the road, that stuff that was forgiven gets brought back up?
That's because it wasn't forgiven. What it became part of the worldly system, which is a debt system, right? We live in a debt system.
Ooh.
We spend money. We live by money. We understand debt. We understand that debt is a lie and that we hold things, right? We put it in the bank so we can use it later on. You can't escape those things. That's why not loving money, right? That the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money becomes the love of false things, the love of currency, the love of anything that is false that you use against something or somewhere.
So if you're in a relationship, you have to maintain a zero balance in that account.
Always. That's the goal, is to not ever have anything against the other. But in a world where we're trained to have bond over something, in a world where we're trained to fill up our bank account, you are what you eat. You cannot be eating by money without it becoming part of you. This is the daily battle. This is the daily dying. It is a requirement. And
that's transformational. If everybody lived like that in relationships, if you screw up, admit it, throw it over the cliff. If you choose to accept, and if you choose to accept an apology and offer forgiveness, also throw it over the cliff and never ever bring it up again. If we maintain zero balance in those accounts, it would transform our relationships.
All of them. And
all
of them. And everything that you do, every single day, I spend my time doing an inventory on those accounts, on people. I'm always going, I got something and I'm throwing that away, because I know that it will occupy me.
Right.
And it's an occupying of my spirit against somebody, and I'm waiting to cash in on something. I'm like, done. I'm over it. Right? It's like when you get attacked or I get attacked, right? Going back, you can only do so much for somebody. At some point, you're now filling somebody else's coffers for something. They're never going to love you. They're never going to see good in you. And if the only opportunity they do have to see good in you is by you just being good, not acting against them, not holding these things against them either. So throwing those away. I have to throw the attacks on me away every single day. This has been part of mine and Malia's conversations constantly, right? Because whenever, as we've talked about the Vesca Pisces system, as we've come together, people come out of the woodwork that want to now influence this relationship. And because you're a part of their universe. Yep. And so I'm like, you can't hold that against them. Yes, it's awful. Yes, they bring these things. You've got to be able to love them through that, throw it away, and be done with that. Because if you hold this against them, we're going to be sitting now managing all of these things. What do we have against them? What do we have against them? What do we have against them? It's this, now all of a sudden you're running a corporation. You're running your own little private corporation of evil against other people.
And, it makes me think that when the master said, borrow without expecting to receive, when he talked about giving people money and not expecting to get it back, he might have really been talking about something deeper. It wasn't really just money. He's talking about forgiveness. He's talking about, not keeping accounts, not expecting to receive again, not keeping something that you can use on somebody again. And I know everyone thinks that I'm in love with Sandra because she's the most gorgeous woman on the earth and she's very beautiful, but that's not really the reason. That's one of the reasons, I'll be honest, but that's not the real reason. It's just there's this real depth of profundity in her, profoundness. And she does things that she doesn't even really think about them, but they're things that I have to study into. And one of the things that she will do is at the end of every day, no matter good, bad, or indifferent, she will clear out all of the text messages she got for that day, all of the emails she got for that day, so that every day she's starting off brand new. She's not carrying any energy from the day before. So what she's really doing is zeroing out her balances. And that is, I mean, unwittingly, unknowingly, just naturally doing and performing a very profound spiritual act without, really saying, oh, this is really spiritual of me. That's the reasons why I love her, those things.
Yeah, she's it's a personal accountability of the things that you hold on to. Every single day should be new against everyone, right? Every single day is an opportunity for those people to be good, regardless of whether they talk to you, regardless of whether they're going to. But every single day is an opportunity for them to deliver themselves. The most detrimental thing that we can do, this is why you should not judge lest you be judged. If you are holding something over somebody, you're holding them in bondage.
And yourself.
And yourself, because as long as you're holding that person in bondage, then you will hold yourself in bondage to those things that you've done against people and that you held them in bondage. It is look, energy cannot be divided, right? Energy cannot be divided in that way, that you give that energy. You hate it, espouses hate. This is the one thing that I always try to explain, is that out of all things in this world, if I give you $1, if I have $1 in my hand, Jeff, and I hand you $1, you have the $1 and I no longer have the $1. But if I have love and I give you love, I still have the love. You now have that love. And there is a trinity that between those two, there is now a overarching love because of those two connections. It is a multiplication, right? There are only two things, only two forms of energy, only two things on this earth that replicate in that way. And it's love and hate.
Ooh, that's great. That's really, really good. And now everyone knows why Sandra is still with me, because she's very forgiving and clears everything out every day.
It's a good thing.
It's a real good thing, because I'm not always the smartest guy, that's for sure. And it's funny, we kind of segued into that, but in a very, very real way, that is kind of the seed of deliverance, isn't it? The real essence of deliverance.
It is. And see, you have to understand that there are tools that the enemy uses with both love and hate. So he will take love and try to turn it into hate with the ego, or he'll turn it into a love of self with the ego. So remember that everything that is of source of the Father gets corrupted by the enemy. And the only way the enemy can create is through us. So we co-create with the enemy and we co-create with the Father. So as co-creators, we have to be careful of what we're creating. So what is it that we are creating? What is it that we are co-creating? Are we co-creating with the enemy? Do I love? And now I have to always be careful that, am I using the love that I have now to fulfill my ego? Has the enemy got a hold of that and corrupted it? So you're always battling with, you ask any monk what deliverance for that monk was, what his training was about. His training is about losing self, destroying ego. That's what he's about. If he can destroy self and he can die to himself, you transcend this place. You transcend this body. And the difficult part of it is that when you say, well, how do I die to myself? You can only die to yourself by recognizing that you're nothing, right? You have to accept that you're nothing. Now think about this, that your ego is such a protection mechanism that it wants to constantly go, no, I am something. And even in teaching it, the person speaking to me will say, you should stop teaching and telling people that they're nothing. There's two dimensions here. There's one of the flesh and there's one of spiritual. You have to first understand that you are nothing in this flesh unless you are everything spiritually. So you have to accept the fact that you are nothing in order to be everything. Ask any Buddhist monk. You want to know everything, first know nothing. You want to be everything, first be nothing.
And even the master said that the one who is to be master is to be the servant of all. He's to put himself, the first shall be last, the last shall be first.
Yes, and the ego will think, well, what do you mean? How can I be the servant and be great? Only the master in you recognizes that you're greater than everybody else in being the least of you. Because the least of you in this flesh is going to be the most of you. The master said, you must die to live, right? He who loses his life will find it. He who finds his life will lose it. That paradox right there is deliverance. Okay, so
he who loses his life will find it. Isn't that?
He who finds his life will lose it.
Couldn't we really relate that to he who loses his ego?
Yes, because ego is life in this flesh. Right? This self, this ego is, and don't get me wrong, I will never sit back here and be holier than thou and tell you that I don't battle with ego. Now,
we all do.
Yeah, of course. But there'll be people that go, oh no, I see you, you're egotistical right now. You don't even recognize what being egoless is. So how could you ever identify when I don't have an ego? You'll see my confidence in the spirit as arrogance in your eyes, because when you're limited, this is where, when somebody thinks they have an answer, and this is what I mean by dying to yourself, and this goes to everybody listening here in the chat room. When anybody says something that
including Malia Allen.
Including Malia. Ego is the flesh. Yeah, hi, Malia. Anytime someone thinks, I don't agree with that, think about the statement that you just made. I don't agree with that. That yields from the ego. Because I can tell you right now, somebody could say something in here, and I will never say, I don't agree with that. Because first of all, only my ego needs to disagree or agree.
Powerful.
Only my ego needs to win or lose, right? Only my ego. So it's nothing to me. I don't disagree or agree with it. I'm completely fine on my own, not being a part of that. There is no such thing as argument. Now you're laughing.
Jamie says, I don't agree with that, Derek.
Jamie says, I don't agree with that. Well, Jamie, I'm going to argue with you. No, I'm not kidding. Jamie, you know what? You're fine to not agree with me.
So that's interesting, because if I say that a lot, I'll say, well, I don't really agree with that, and trying to be, magnanimous. And really what I'm saying is, I hear what you're saying. I'm not really right there with you, but by saying I don't agree with that, I really am making it about ego, aren't I? Because it is my ego.
Yes. It is your ego. And because if you're absent of your ego in that situation, because you're trying to hang on to something, right? You're trying to identify yourself. Once you begin to look at things and you say, instead of I don't agree with that, you say, I don't understand.
Or tell me more.
Yeah, I don't understand. Tell me how you arrived at that. Like, I want to understand. And they'll explain, and they'll go, do you understand? And I go, I think I do. And they'll go, well, do you agree or disagree? And I go, is that a requirement?
And we can take this right back into the realm of relationships.
Yeah, of course. Of course you can. So think about that.
Help me understand. Honey, I don't understand. Honey, what do you mean?
I don't understand.
Or saying I don't really like that, Sandra brings up. That's another one.
Yeah, I don't really like that.
Sandra has this little saying, there's these certain words, and if it starts with these certain words, it's ego speaking. Sandra, if you can, please share that with us in the chat room, because I think it's very helpful. I'm learning, I thought that I was a guy that had pretty much slain ego, but I'm learning that's probably not the case, Derek.
No, it's a tough one to slay. And look, any monk will tell you this, Jeff. You are never successful at slaying the ego. You are always wrestling with the ego. It is a never-ending battle because you're wearing the ego, right? Yeah. You're dressed in it. So
Sandra says that those words are, when you start starting out sentences with words like should, need, or want, you can be sure that it's coming from ego. Do you understand that, Derek?
Should, need, or want. Yes, I want this. I need that. You should do that. I mean, anytime, first of all, anytime you're projecting anything to anybody, right? Anytime, if you say, Sandra, you should be doing this, that yields from ego. Okay, because here's the deal.
Or you shouldn't be doing that.
You would much rather have Sandra, much rather her learn what she should be doing on her own, so the truth is authentic in her. The one thing that I've continuously spoken of is that I don't tell you what to believe. I show you, and you look, and you figure it out. Look, there's a reason why the master answered every question with a question.
That's right.
Okay. The reason why is because you have to discover the answer on your own. Because of why? Because of ego. If you don't get it on your own, you will never accept it as your truth. It will always be a currency.
That's
so
right.
If I give you the truth, if I hand it over and go, here, Jeff, here's the truth, and you accept it, now you owe me something. And you, right? And when it comes up, you'd be, oh my gosh, I owe him. And I'm constantly, you can say, I could say, you don't owe me anything all damn day long, Jeff. You will be in bondage because your ego will make it that way.
So when I want to say, when in my head it says, I don't agree with that, what's a more spiritually mature and spiritually accurate and spiritually helpful phraseology to use?
Well, first, why do you have to comment? Why do you have to even comment on it? So there's that first question. What do you get from it? What are you trying to achieve from that? What is the point of you interjecting? I don't agree with that. Is the point of that trying to lower them or to put them in check? Because it's okay that you don't agree with it or that it doesn't rub you right inside, right? And even if you don't agree and that's not how you do things, that might be their way. So it's an arrogance. It's an arrogance in you trying to force your ways on that person. Again, the Vesica Pisces. Because what might be good for you might not be good for me. So I'm not going to tell you I don't agree with that and try to influence the way that you live. Why would I ever want to do that?
Which is why Sandra says discernment is important to consider when you're being asked questions and when you're asking questions.
Exactly. Hey, Naughty Beaver showed up.
So did WSO.
Oh, WSO, man, we got the whole crew here. This is a very popular.
So if you're in it, let's go back to relationships again. I'm all about relationships now. And let's face it, most people, the most important thing in their life are relationships. So if you're in a relationship and your significant other asks you a question that you feel is putting, what? What'd you say, Derek? Derek, are you still with me?
Your connection my connection had destabilized. We're now having storms outside.
Oh, okay.
I can see you.
I can see you good now as well. So if you're in a relationship and you get asked a question that you're not comfortable with, what's a good way to respond to that? And it looks like,
ask yourself that if you get.
Go ahead.
Say that again. Here, let me try to straighten up my bandwidth a little bit here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now. I was just following up on Sandra's question. She says it's important to use discernment when you're thinking about asking a question. I think she's saying, why do you want to know it? Is it your ego that wants to know it? And if someone's asking you a question, that you should be discerning and say, why are they asking me this question? Why are they coming at me with this?
Yes. And that's how two people can learn to correct each other in the nicest of ways. So
Give us an example.
So if you hear something Sandra says and you don't agree with it, you can say, I don't understand. But if you don't get to the point, let's say you overstep that boundary and you go, I don't agree with that. She can then correct you by saying, what, you don't understand what I'm saying?
Oh, that's good.
Right? So she can correct you in motion. and being where she's not stepping on your ego and causing a flaming disaster. She's not going to ignite it. The whole point is that when you're conscious of each other's flesh, you're always weary of that part. Not that you're weary of that person. You separate those two things. You're like, boy, how do I avoid that person's flesh?
And you know what, Derek, you just said a mouthful. When you get into these clashes of ego, it's very, very wearying. It's very, very tiring.
Exhausting.
It exhausts you.
And it's intended to do just that, right? That's the point, is that it's intended to divide and exhaust and divide and exhaust and separate. There is nothing good, nothing that comes from an argument. If you think about an argument you've had in your life, have you ever won? Truly.
No.
If never, you never win an argument. Never. There is no winner in arguments. There's no such thing, because it's temporary. Just like I say, because when you get into the flesh of things, you can sit, what you're addressing is this. If somebody has eczema, okay? And it's like arguing over the outbreak of eczema on the top of the skin. You can take lotion and put it on top of the eczema and make that go away. Did you do anything about the eczema?
No.
No, because it's from inside.
It's like the old saying, the person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still, and they're pissed.
Yes.
I added the last part.
Yeah, but it doesn't change anything. And that will, and I'll tell you one thing, if you ever want to see anger, have a debate with somebody you're not debating with. If somebody wants to argue with me and I just keep bringing it back to there's no point in the argument, in a way, I'll go, so if I answer that question, but it isn't exactly what you want to hear, are you going to be happy? And they'll go, what does that mean? I go, well, see, the whole point is you're not willing for me to have a different opinion. So why are we going to talk?
Mm-hmm.
What you want is to force your opinion onto me. You want me to somehow agree with your opinion, and you're never going to be happy until I do. And even if I do, if you don't think in your own mind that I actually think that way, you're never going to be happy. It is a dead end street. But yet we find people, hell, we have an entire building in Washington, D.C. all about arguments that accomplish nothing. I've testified before Congress more than 60 times. Nothing got accomplished, ever.
The opposite of progress is Congress.
Man, I'll tell you, I've been there way too much. If somebody asks me my opinion about politics, you'll see me just sprint. I'll just run away. I'm like, I'm not even talking to you, because I promise you I will insult you.
So there is no doubt that the seed to all of our relationship problems is ego.
All of them.
All of them. Every single one of them is ego. And our need to be right, our need to be heard, our need to be justified, our need to convince somebody of our way being right.
Yes.
Wow.
All of it. All of our problems yield from the same place. It's quite simple.
And Sandra says you can get into a place where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yes. So if you are damned if you do and damned if you don't, what's the solution to that?
What is the solution to that?
To not be involved in it. The middle way, the middle road, the narrow gate, right? This is the whole point. Good and evil. Serpent says, hey, eat this and you'll be like God, knowing the difference between good or evil. The most amazing thing is I say, what, did Satan in his biblical debut in the Bible tell the truth? He's the father of lies. Right? So, wait, he told the truth? I love it. I go to pastors and say, do you know the difference between good or evil? Of course I do. Ha. So you believe the serpent.
Sandra has a one-word catchphrase, and it's so powerful, and it's simply this: disengage.
Yes. And the thing is that when you're in a relationship, you have to be willing to allow that to happen. Ego doesn't want to let the other person disengage, but the most powerful thing that two people could do is go, you know what? This there is nothing good going to come of this.
There's nothing here, possibly too. There's nothing here.
Yeah, and here's the most important thing, and this is something that I want to impress on everyone, because this is going to be the most important thing. We see it every single day. Anybody that follows my channel, you see this every day. I get hundreds of emails asking me to defend something that somebody else said on some other channel, okay? The reason why, everybody, I do not respond to you is because I do not validate something that doesn't exist. If somebody comes to you with something, if somebody comes to you, your spouse comes to you with something that is a lie, that somebody said or some perception that they had, do not validate it by even discussing it. Because see, the enemy, exactly what I've been saying, you co-create with the enemy. If somebody brings you nothing and says something, that becomes, used by the enemy, black magic. Black magic is incantation, something you say with your mouth. It doesn't matter what you say. You say it with your mouth. The minute you respond to that and defend it, you make it something. It was nothing. Where two or more are gathered. Okay, this is the whole point of that. And if you read the Nag Hammadi text, where two or more deities are gathered, we're divine.
Deities. And when we begin to speak it, it's like when we were talking about before the show, where let's say that someone that doesn't like you, hates you, wants to destroy you, sends you an email or says something to you. And we'll go back to relationship again. Let's say that here's two people together. Some person says something about one of them. And instead of that person just saying there's nothing here and just letting it, water off a duck's back, they'll take it to the other person and say, you know what this person said to me today? They said this and that. So now you got two people, two creators, two divinities talking about something that's nothing. And as soon as you begin to talk about it, and really even as soon as you begin to allow yourself to dwell on it in thought, you have taken a nothing and turned it into a something.
Yes, and it is something.
Big time over the last 6 months.
Yes, and the other thing is, make this a practice in everybody's life out there. Do not talk about somebody unless they're present. Period.
Period.
Period. If they're not present, there is no need to have the conversation.
There's no need to have the conversation. So even if somebody that is involved in your life says something, there's no reason to talk about it if they're not there.
Because if they're not there, you're now you're not allowing their divinity to be a part of that. So it just becomes gossip.
Right.
If you're going, you know what somebody said today, it's always going to be a variation, right? The ego is going to make it, because our understanding of things, if you feel that you can hide in seclusion, that's why the people that are attacking you, it's really easy. This is where social media has been one of the most destructive things ever.
No triangulation, Malia says.
Yes, no triangulation. That's exactly it, right? You get two people talking about another person in the middle. You're creating a triangulation. You're just killing that person in the middle. The gossip is evil, evil, evil. I cannot stand it. And I believe
it's deliverance. If you really want to know what deliverance is, deliver yourself from all of this stuff simply by, there's nothing there, disengage.
Yes, and let me just tell you something. When people talk about, Jesus, Prince of Peace, and all of this stuff, and he was so wonderful and just loving and touching people, I can promise you right now that 99% of people out here would never have made it a day walking with the man. Because when you actually understand what he's saying, he was one tough ass dude.
He was.
Okay, there was nothing easy about the stuff he was telling you. He was holding people accountable. He didn't even get along with his own disciples. Okay, he didn't even like them. He was so had such a disdain for the condition of mankind. He needed to say what he needed to say, make sure it was written, and get out of here. He literally just dropped all these things. When he would come up and say, how long must I bear with you? I mean, I think that there probably was a few cuss words in there from time to time, because,
Naughty Beaver says, does a skunk know that it stinks? Because you think it stinks, does that mean that it agrees? Do you think that you'll win an argument with that skunk? That's why it's best to just avoid a debate with a skunk.
It is. But you see, the skunk actually does know it stinks because it knows that it's a weapon.
Right.
So that
That's
somebody
true.
knows that they have a weapon, right? Otherwise, the skunk wouldn't spray you if you didn't know it stunk.
But how many times do things start in our relationships where if the people were smart enough to say, look, there's nothing here, number one, let's just forget this. Or number two, you know where an argument, you know that something's going to be an argument long before it turns into an argument. And if you can just say, let's disengage, let's just put this on the shelf. But
Yes.
that takes maturity, that takes spirituality, and that takes real love.
Nadi says, stop arguing with me, Derek.
Stop arguing with me, Derek. Wow, and this really is the essence of true deliverance. True deliverance is not going to some crazy Pentecostal preacher that wipes his own sweat on your head. And Malia, I don't know if Derek told you about that, but
yeah, you did in the one video she saw. We talked about it. She was like, ew.
Ooh, yeah, that's not deliverance. Deliverance is really the real core of deliverance is delivering yourself and those that deal with you from the ravages of your ego. Ego makes a great servant, but a terrible master.
Yes, and the thing is that it.
Malia says nasty. That's just because she's Baptist. She doesn't really understand it.
Yeah, see, that's just an opinion, right? That it's nasty.
That's just an opinion, but she didn't say I don't agree with it.
That's just an opinion, but you know. So yes, the most accurate thing to what you said there, Jeff, is that deliverance isn't having some Baptist, minister come up and say something or smack you on the head or anoint you with oil or any of that. Deliverance, only you can deliver you.
That's right.
Christ in you, that spirit, you can call it whatever you want, right? Buddha called it something different. All of these different variations of the spirit of Christ. The reality is, I say Christ because that's what most people recognize.
Right.
But long before there was Christ, it was still there too. It is the divinity that is in us. You are divine. You have an eternal spirit. It is already eternal. It always was, right? When people want to say, no, you don't have eternal life. I'm like, wait a minute. In your own word, it says you have eternal damnation or you have eternal paradise.
Right.
Either one, it's eternal. You're just picking the address. That's what I continually try to beat into people's heads. So you're an eternal being. You do not need somebody else to save you. That's what the church does.
Derek,
so they offer you earth.
The scriptures say that God alone has eternal life. Well, that solves it. But then the master also said, you are God. Boom.
Yeah, he said, what do you mean? Your scripture says, does it not say that ye are gods? Well, then what are you getting on my case for?
And only God has eternal life. So what does that mean? We've got eternal life.
Precisely. And you are sons of God. That's why he said, you're all sons of God. Father, I want you, all of me is in me, and I want them to have exactly what I have.
Wow. Profound
Not
stuff.
part of it.
And Derek is he's in freeze frame right now. So I think we have some weather challenges out there in Arizona. But folks, I'm telling you, this is some of the most profound stuff that you're going to hear anywhere. We're talking about how you can really deliver your life from all of the ravages of your ego. And I think Derek's back. No, I'm wrong. He's not back.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there he is.
And so let me just point this. Am I? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to drop off my video.
So, I can hear you
talking. That might help conserve bandwidth. Mine is green and good to go. I don't know if the weather's affecting you out there.
No, Jeff, it's mine. It's mine. I've got thunderstorms going on out here and everything. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so the most important thing when we're talking about, and this is what's so amazing, and this will also lead into some of the Hopi stuff, that the transmutation of ourselves, when they've tried to make it something else, born again, all of these other different variations of it, having the church take control over it, just like they took control over marriage, they took control over everything. They marry you. You don't do that yourself. They've taken everything that was the Father's and made it their control mechanism.
Absolutely.
Right? So marriage, when you love somebody, you're married. When you have sex with them, you consummate the marriage. Nonsense part of it is that somehow we think that marrying somebody is going to a courthouse or going to a church, and some guy that you don't even know says some things and he marries you. Like this, again, it becomes black magic again. That through their forced hand, through the things that they're doing, it's black magic. In
By
everything
the power
is this
vested in
way.
me by the Assembly of God in the state of Florida.
Crazy to even think that we have relented to this. Where is the rebellion in you that rebels against somebody dominating you and controlling you, absent of the laws of God? They're right there nowhere in the Bible. Hey, where does it say it? I don't care whether you, and this is why it was so easy for Christ to come in and beat the churches down with their own word. He was showing the hypocrisy within the words of the things that they had taken, and that's why he said, you are honoring the doctrines of man, but your hearts are far from me.
Yeah.
Right? So you're listening to mankind. So all of these things, everything, forget about everybody else. Forget about everybody. Forget about religions. Forget about Buddha. Forget about everybody. You cannot find deliverance until you go inside. As Sandra says, it's an inside job, and you better get busy working on the inside, because, man, this is all right here. Just like I said, the church deals with things. It's eczema topically. Go in, confess your sins, do these things. You get through another week. Then you got to go there another Sunday, and they get another topical, ointment put on top of the eczema. The eczema comes from inside. It's a bacteria. It's inside of you. It's going to eat you alive. You'll be going to that church, and they've made a currency out of it. Deliverance comes from within you. Dying to yourself. Now, I'm just going to tell you, if somebody comes to me, you can sit here today and go, okay, well, Derek seems like a very nice guy and all of that. If somebody comes to me and is truly seeking deliverance for themselves, and they are wanting refinement, I can promise you that it's not going to be a joyful ride, because I'm going to be identifying every little nasty aspect of you, right? I'm going to be identifying how the ego works, things that you say. And before you know it, after a week and a half in, you're going to recognize I should just keep my mouth shut. You're going to realize that almost everything that you say and do. Now you think, well, what do I do? Just crawl in a closet and shut up? No, there is a transition that takes place. Once you die to yourself, again, become nothing. So eventually you will be quiet. And then once you recognize all of the value in the true things, you will never speak anything unless it contains value and it comes from the place that it needs to. You will never exercise a right outside of that. And when you do, you immediately will go away, back away from people, and you'll withdraw and get rid of that again. There's a reason why Christ would be talking to everybody and dealing with them. And then I'm sure his ego, he got pissed off. He probably wanted to smack some people and go, it's time for me to get up to the mountains and be alone for a while. I got to get rid of the world a bit, right? That's why it said he withdrew.
So, and Mystery Johnson's in the chat room. She was in the chat, I think it was yesterday or the day before, asked if her daughter was going to have her baby this week. And I was using my rods. They said yes, and her daughter just went into labor. That's going to upset some of you, but that's okay.
Very nice. And once again, if I look like I'm sweating in here, it's about 110 degrees in here because this storm just came through and it made the humidity go up probably by 25% since the storm came by. So I'm sorry if I look a little shiny.
Derek, let me take a little. I know you want to talk about the Hopi stuff, and that I know a lot of people want to hear about it. Let me throw one of my pet peeves at you and have you respond to it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Up until like 1517 or so, the 16th century, the historical position of the church as a whole was that the book of Revelation was a historical document, that it talked about the Roman Catholic Church being the seat of Antichrist and the Pope being really the seat of Antichrist himself. And that was one of the big tenets of the Protestant Reformation. Salvation by faith, no more indulgences, and the fact that the Roman Catholic Church was the seat of Antichrist. So this is the Protestant Reformation started about 1517, and 100% of all Protestants believed that Revelation was a historical document, that it had all been fulfilled prophetically up before their time. And then about 17 years later comes Ignatius of Loyola and the Jesuit movement. And the Jesuit movement starts what they called the Counter-Reformation movement. And it was with Francisco Ribera, a Jesuit monk, who invented the idea of a future temple being rebuilt, who invented the idea of a future Antichrist, who invented the idea of a future tribulation, who invented the idea of people getting their heads chopped off and stuff. And now here we are in 2018, and almost every one of the Protestants listening to me now are screaming and yelling and hollering and saying, I don't agree with that. But the historical reality is that up until the 16th century, no Protestant believed any of this, what we call eschatology. And now the Protestants are following the beliefs of the Jesuits that were created to counteract the Protestant Reformation. And now this whole thing of eschatology is out there and all these Protestants believe it. What's going on?
Well, the thing with eschatology is that they took previous statements, previous prophetic visions by Enoch, by Daniel, right? And they, if you ever want to look, and you can see this throughout the scriptures, and just today, between Ezekiel and Jeremiah, you have two prophets, two very different times, saying the exact same thing. Now, what they were saying is irrelevant for what I'm mentioning here.
Right.
But if they ever want to take something and alter it and validate it, they have to take what they believe, something that people believe. I'll give you a perfect example of this. There is no short answer for things like this, particularly things like this in depth. So please have patience, everybody, and listen and follow this. When Hitler did not like communism, okay?
Yep.
He did not like communism. In fact, after the fall of Hitler, Hitler's people had a real problem because they were trying to establish their political party without him. But more importantly, they couldn't figure out, the people that were running Germany at the time couldn't figure out why people accepted Hitler and did not accept communism. They couldn't figure out why communism, being such a great idea in its purity and their identity of what it was in purity, why they couldn't get people to agree with it. There was a school that was made called the Fraunhofer School. And the Fraunhofer School was to figure out how to make something popular unpopular and how to make something unpopular popular. Right? So this was the entire psychology of the school. This is where MK Ultra and all of these things yielded from. And ultimately that school moved from Germany into San Diego, first into New York and then into San Diego. And there were splinters of that became a part of in this country, part of the Democratic Party. I'm not talking to parties here, so don't think I'm being political.
Right.
Just letting you know which party they attach themselves to. Now, in this, they began to practice things where making something popular unpopular. You're witnessing it today with these TED Talks about trying to be sympathetic towards pedophiles. Now, I'm not judging anybody, right? I'm not judging anybody, whether they agree or disagree. I'm just letting you know that right now there is a movement to make something unpopular popular. Now, what would be the purpose of this? Well, you have very powerful people in the world that are pedophiles that no one knows. So once it's known, they're going to make sure that there's been this massive argument that they're trying to change what is unpopular to make it popular. And that is done through political correctness. Okay? The Bible is the exact same thing. You cannot go into the church and say, wait, I don't understand this, or you're condemned that it's politically incorrect. It is religiously or righteously incorrect to state that. So the church itself is the greatest purveyor of political correctness. They just call it righteous, or they call it doctrine, or they call it all of these things. Everything that you ever see in the Bible. So now Revelation itself, the book of Revelation, yields from a writing that, if you actually read the original writing, doesn't contain the same phrases. So what they've done is they've taken phrases from Daniel, so from Daniel's Revelation, and they've moved those over and kind of mimicked them to get you to accept these certain terminologies. And if you don't, then you're unrighteous. So they use political correctness in that, because they take something as powerful as Daniel, something that everybody adheres to, and attach what they want you to agree with over here. You're going to disagree with it at first. They get you to agree with it, or you hate Daniel. And it's the same thing. And the amazing part is the master used this against the Pharisees. He used their own tool against the Pharisees, political incorrectness. When they asked him, who gave you the authority? He says, I'll answer your question if you answer my question. Where was the baptism of John? They would be politically incorrect in any answer. So he completely nailed them. He was such a master, he even knew their own tactics. They were practicing political correctness even then. And so he used it against them. I'm telling you, he was a serious badass.
He was
serious badass.
Definitely was.
Not a joke. I would not want to confront that dude.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, you know, and not to put ourselves in the same category whatsoever, but there's a reason why you and I sit here and say, if you don't agree with what we say, if you think that we're wrong, then meet us in a fair, open, moderated debate. I will go anywhere, anytime with any preacher that wants to dress me down and prove why I'm an antichrist and prove why I'm wrong and prove why it's not right. I would love to open, fairly, and objectively moderated debate with anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I think you feel the same way, Derek.
Absolutely. Look, these pathetic little demons out there, and look, I'm not castigating the person. I'm talking about the demons in people. These pathetic little demons out there that are going to come and attack you. The last place they're going to do is come and talk to you. I've had people say, hey, I'm calling you out, bros, and ask me a question. Like you hear how long it takes to actually answer a question, and I could go into hours in answering a single question and give you the understanding of the history. This isn't Burger King. You don't get to decide how in-depth an answer to a question has to be. If I'm going to answer it thoroughly, I'm going to answer the question thoroughly. There isn't anybody. None of my attackers, people, I don't care who it is, David, Jerry, Monica, you name it. Anybody that hates me and thinks that I'm telling lies, come on the radio show. Let's debate it. You want to talk about it? I'll talk about it. I will shut up. I will mute my microphone. I'll let you speak your piece. I want your piece to be heard. I want your voice to be heard.
Yeah. I've got one of the most popular preachers in Manhattan attacking me by name in print, but yet he doesn't have the guts to actually have an open and fair debate with me. And that's okay, but that's just the way it is. And the next one that accepts my invitation to debate won't be the first one, they'll be the second one. There was a guy named Chris Putnam who was someone I profoundly disagreed with, but he was a gentleman scholar, and we had a couple of really great epic debates. But all the rest of these people, they just want to play to their base and get their base stirred up and get everybody riled up. They don't have any interest in the truth. If they did, they would meet people like Derek and myself in fair, open, moderated debate.
Sure. And why wouldn't they want to? I'm going to tell you why they don't want to. Now, somebody said that, hey, careful that it's a distraction. It's a waste of your time. Let me tell you something. There is, in taking a perceived truth, which is a dogma of the church, if I can show how that is a complete lie, and that how the person that is supposedly an authority in that lie, and I can demonstrate that he can't answer the question, then it's a powerful, powerful thing. It is a powerful tool.
It really is. Absolutely.
So I'm always willing to, because I can tell you that I don't speak of anything that I don't know is true. When I've said from the start that I don't speak of things that I believe, somebody says, well, you believe that. I go, no, you can believe something. I don't believe things. I only speak of things that I know. And the reason why I know them is because I've been shown them, and then I've been confirmed throughout ancient texts and modern texts and texts from 1,000 years ago. So constantly, that's the most evidence I have. I know it. Not only that, I feel it. And I also witness it with my eyes. I witness it with my spirit. I witness it with my skin. I can witness this stuff. So I know what I'm speaking of. So when that is something that happens, there isn't anybody. I don't care what it is. I'll take Billy Graham's son, whoever, bring them. Because if I can show that they have not only indoctrinated themselves, I can show that guy doubt himself. But the reason why they won't come, Jeff, and this is this simple, because they are terrified to have their temple damaged.
Absolutely.
Because they know what they have is false. There is no other reason. They know that what they're standing on is false, and they are terrified to have a stone broken down.
Absolutely.
Then they've got to build it back up. And I can't tell you how many times I've dropped a truth bomb, a scriptural truth bomb on somebody, like a pastor. And I had a pastor call me. In fact, when I first started my channel, this pastor called me and wanted to have it out with me. I stayed on the phone with him for probably 4 hours.
Wow.
At the end of the 4 hours, he was so unbelievably, first 2 hours in, he was so pissed. And all he wanted to do was fight and try to build up his temple. And I explained to him, the only reason why you want to argue, the only purpose is because you have heard all of your truths be completely destroyed with your own Bible, with your own text, with your own beliefs, that you realize, and you're pissed. You realize you've actually been worshiping Satan, and you ought to be pissed. You ought to be furious that somebody taught you to do that, right? Somebody taught you to do this. So somebody taught you these things. Don't be pissed at me. I'm the one helping you free your mind. I'm the one taking the crown of thorns off of your head. I'm the only one. I'm the one taking your cross off your back and carrying it for you. Why are you attacking me?
Absolutely.
And by the time we were done, see, I can't build somebody up unless I first tear you down. If you're standing on these false beliefs, I'm going to wipe your foundation out first, the way that you think and everything. And the reality is, once they're torn down, this is where the master said, you'll have 7 demons removed, and they'll go out and find waterless places. And then they'll return and find the house all swept and clean and bring 7 of their friends with them, right? That is essentially what happens sometimes. So if that person isn't solid, when you strip them of all of these understandings, when you begin stripping their ego away, they're extremely vulnerable. And if they're not consuming the right foods, they're not consuming the right understanding, spiritual understandings, they will become a target, and they will end up turning. And this is where Christ said, don't throw your pearls to the pigs lest they turn on you and attack you. It's exactly it. I wouldn't make it personal, right? I've already witnessed it. You have to be very, very careful. Somebody has to be willing to lay on their face and have snot pouring from their nose and crying their eyes out and admitting everything. The confessing of your sins isn't confessing it to me. It's confessing them to yourself, getting rid of these things.
Here's a really interesting question. You know, the fish symbol being used in Christianity, is the fish symbol used to symbolize a school, as in follow the leader?
No. I did a video on the fish symbol. There's a number of, just like everything, Jeff, everything of the fathers is corrupted by the enemy. So the fish symbol represents, and I'll bring out the whiteboard here.
I didn't bring mine with me, so I'm at a deficit.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, I'll whiteboard for you. Okay, if you can see this. I'm going to draw this way first. I'm going to first show you a cine wave, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And also DNA. You got this?
Right.
Okay, DNA, cine wave, the word, everything in the universe, as we were talking, spherical, right? So spirals, all of it. Here's the fish. Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point being is this is the end of an age. The fish is this cross right here. Our age also works the same way, that this right here is the end of an age. So the cross, this is why ancient Hopi symbols, this is why ancient tribal symbols through all of the ancient tribal people is a cross. But it's not a cross like the church cross. It's not that cross. Okay? It's this cross. It's an even cross. It's the cross. It's death to yourself. It's death to the world. It's the death of the age. It is the death of a lot of things. And just like I've said, when people want to talk about the rapture and ascension, okay, I wanted to invite everybody to go watch a movie that is called V for Vendetta.
Yes.
Now, it might seem, and you see the mask and you see all that, but I'll tell you right now, there is one of the most profound scenes in this movie. Now, what happens is this, the guy from V for Vendetta, who is V, the beginning of the movie, he comes out, building blows up, and he's completely burnt head to toe. Has no eyes left, really, so just slits. He's completely burnt from head to toe. That was his refinement by fire.
Ooh,
okay?
Good one.
Okay, so he was refined by fire. His fear of death, his ego, because obviously he doesn't have one anymore because he can't. He's a monster now from a look standpoint, right? He's just a big red blob of mankind. So he dresses, and that's why he wears the mask. But he's incredibly intelligent and incredibly strong. Now he meets this girl, Evie, and he falls in love with her, but she needs refinement. She says, I'm so tired of being scared. Now pay attention to this movie. Everybody watch this movie. I'm telling you, you'll get something from it. He acts as though she's put in prison, but he's the one that's imprisoned her. And he's the one that's tortured her with high-powered water, all about turning him in. Like it's the government searching for him, asking her questions and going, just give us his name and we'll let you go back to your life. And then he demonstrates some lessons that he learned in prison with these letters from this girl next to her in the cell. Long story short, through all of this, she learns that love is the only power in the world. And she learns that fear is the only thing that kills you. And so she abandons her fear, and they say, basically one last time, either you turn him in and give us a piece of information, or we're going to take you behind the chemical shed and shoot you. And she says, and they say, are you going to cooperate? She says, no. So then they come back and they say, it's time. And they said, are you going to cooperate? She says, no. And she says, I'd rather go behind the chemical shed and be shot. And he says, and so the guy that's just a shadow of a figure says, so you have no fear anymore then. You're completely free. And he walks away and leaves the prison door open. And she walks out and then walks out and figures out that she's in a prison cell in his house. And he comes to her and says, I wish there was an easier way to do this. And she loses her mind. You did this to me. You cut my hair. You tortured me. You destroyed me. And she starts panicking. She goes, I don't want to listen to your lies anymore. Like she couldn't believe that he would do this. And he said, you said yourself you wanted to be free. You also said that even artists use lies to tell the truth, right? So long story short with this, to wrap this up, she goes through and she starts to break down mentally, okay? And she hits the floor, and he grabs her and he says to her, and he says, Evie, pay attention. This is the most important moment of your life, okay? And he starts saying, what you learned in there is the same thing there. Just because you now know it's fake doesn't mean that what you didn't experience being real, that you've abandoned your fear of death, of all of it. You have no fear of anything. And then she says, and he goes, so what is it that you felt in there? And she goes, I felt, and she goes, I'm dizzy. Now she starts to get dizzy. She calms down and she says, I'm dizzy. I need air. And he says to her, this is cryptic in the movie. And he says to her, there's a lift, because this line has nothing to do with the movie. It's completely irrelevant, but this is where they tell the truth inside, where the truth is told within creative works. And he says, there's a lift. It'll take us to the roof. This is the ascension that we're talking about. Okay. And then she ascends and she walks outside and it's raining and she holds her hands out. And then they cut to him being refined by fire, the explosion in the fire, and then show her in the water, fire and water. Okay. So the ascension is essentially, once you flee, once you do abandon yourself and you die to yourself, and this isn't something that you walk up and it's some joyful thing on the pulpit at a church. This is a hard, bloody, inside ugly. You are coming to terms with all of your fears, all of your crap, all of it. You are fleeing from your ego. You're killing your ego. It is a death that most cannot comprehend.
It's an inside job.
You are shredding yourself completely. You are, I mean, put the noose on your neck, hold it, and be willing to go, right? Willing to go. I say, hey, they want to come with guillotines today. I'll draw the line on my neck. I could care less, right? Look at this place. Who wants to be here? And that's exactly what Christ said when he said to Pilate. He said, don't you know that I have the power to free you or kill you? And he says, you have no power unless it's given by the Father. In other words, if I'm supposed to die, I'm gonna, and it won't matter whether it's you or somebody else, that'll happen. But if I'm not supposed to die, not you or anybody else can make it happen.
So Derek, the real cryptic hidden truth is, everybody wants ascension. Oh, we want to ascend. We want to ascend. All our New Age friends want to ascend, and all our truther friends want to ascend. But the only way that you can ascend is for you first to descend into the dark night of the soul, to descend into the place of the destruction of the ego, to descend into the place where you go inside, do the inside jerk, because somebody was trolling. No. Do the inside work, and only then can you ascend. So you can't even think about ascending until you've descended.
Yes, David, that's the two cronies that attack me all the time. David Mott and Edith Ministries. These two think that they're the two witnesses. I said, come on my radio. I said, come on my radio show. I still, you've got my email, dbros@gmail. You email me. We'll set a time. You'll come on the radio show. If you've got it, come on. So I'll bring you on. I'll give you a half hour to speak your piece. So,
my. Where's my moderators tonight? I was so engrossed in what you were talking about. But that's so true. You've got, and everyone that I've ever met, Derek, and maybe I haven't met everyone, but everyone that I've ever met that has done anything remarkable spiritually has had a crash and burn moment.
Yes, you have to. And this is the whole point. I mean, look, a monk goes into the mountains to literally have his butt kicked by the other monks, not physically beat, but they're going to, I mean, look, and this goes to even the smaller pieces, right? Wax on, wax off, Karate Kid. Right. There's always going to be this descending. In fact, and when you go into the Nag Hammadi text, you're going to read quite a bit about saying, whoever said that, Christ came from heaven, first he had to descend before he could ascend. He had to first descend before he could ascend. You have to go down and destroy yourself. You can't maintain yourself in this world and ascend. Not only that, we're all looking for some crazy thing. We're all looking for this an easy way. We're all looking to ascend with ice cream and lollipops.
Absolutely.
It doesn't happen that way. That's why I say, if I, and quite honestly, this is why this world and the laws and political correctness, you would never get away with it. This is why you have to go into the mountains in Tibet to do this. Because I couldn't hold a class, a school. I couldn't do that because people would accuse you of verbally abusing them, right? Because if they're hurt by it, oh, you're hurting my feelings. It's impossible to come to terms with your crap unless somebody is going to bring it to the light. You can't, because these things are buried deep inside of you.
Wow. And Derek, if you really are walking a spiritual path, and if you're really truly seeking spiritual enlightenment, doesn't it make sense that the father and mother would bring people into your life to bring to light the crap that you still got in you?
Yes. Yes. You have to bring to light the trash. You can't take out the trash unless you bag it up.
That's right.
Right? You can't take out the trash unless you bag it up.
Here's a great question, Derek. I want you to respond to this. How does a person assist their child with ascension and living right when one parent is living according to the father's ways and the other parent is living according to the enemy's ways?
It's quite, I'm going to tell you that it's simple, but I'm not going to tell you it's easy. That's the thing about what I'm talking about. It's simple to know. It is not easy to do. The reality is that the child understands this much easier than we do. They get it much faster. That's why if you want to enter the kingdom of God, you must become like a little child. Becoming that little child and thinking innocently, not thinking like the world. They fully grasp it much faster than we do because they don't have an ego. They're not concerned about how people really think about them yet.
And these parents are parallel parenting. At the same time, they have the same amount of exposure to the child.
That's okay, but don't think of it as a currency or a debt system, because influence, just because it's parallel parenting, doesn't mean that it's equal influence. Right? A child is going to gravitate towards the truth much faster than it'll gravitate towards the lie. And the more important thing, it's not about you speaking it as much as it is you living it. When people go, I can't convince my husband, I can't convince my wife, I can't convince my kids, I go, stop trying to convince them. The mere fact that you're trying to convince them, you're bouncing up against ego or opinions. Don't convince them, show them, demonstrate it, be free, be relaxed. Don't let things bother you that drives them crazy. They're going to want what you have. Right
so the
away.
best thing you can do is be divine, be sovereign, be free, and let the child see it and experience it firsthand.
Yes, let them witness it in you. Let them witness you love somebody that's unlovable in the world. Let them see you take something on or somebody attack you and it not bother you a bit.
Let them see you call favor down upon those that despitefully use you.
Absolutely. And they'll go, how do you do that? Right? Just like I've said to you a couple times when we've spoken, that when you become a mirror, that in a world full of evil people, in a world full of
profound, folks, listen to this.
In a world full of demons, all you see are demons. So it's very, very normal for you to act like one. And everybody will be okay with it. Nobody's going to tell you you're wrong because everybody's acting just like you. The only way that you become profound to somebody else is when you become a mirror to their demonic activity. The only way that you become a mirror to that is by being the opposite of that. And then all of a sudden, they're going to look at you. They won't even be able to understand it because they won't be able to accomplish the things that you do. They won't be able to ignore the things that you do. When somebody, like I said to you, if somebody insults you, they call you gay. First of all, number one, somebody calls you gay and you're not, you shouldn't even respond to it because why? If you're not, what's the big deal? And by the way, if you are, who cares?
Exactly.
Right? So if you're not, no big deal. If you are, this is the whole point. But more importantly, the minute you allow somebody to change your mood, the minute you allow somebody to alter you, you made them your God. They became your God because they can change you, a divine being, right? They can alter you. Now that is a problem because the minute somebody alters you and takes away your divinity and you allowed it to happen, now you must respond and go fight to take back your throne.
And we go back to Sandra's mantra of disengage. That's powerful stuff. Talk to us about some of your adventures in Hopi lands.
The adventures in Hopi lands were, as I said in the video earlier today, you know, we went through very casually. We wanted to experience it, just see, not go in there and have a meeting with the shamans, although we ended up meeting with with a couple of the people there at the cultural center and arranging for a future time at Prophecy Rock with the shaman. And so that's going to take place. I still have to do that. But what it was really just being an observer. And being an observer, you can obtain so much more. And now also during the observations, having conversations with the people that are clearly in the know about the Hopi, right? So the people that they have running the Hopi Cultural Center, obviously they're there to curate, to be curators of the museum. Now understand this, the Hopi Museum and their cultural center, not only is it very small and humble, it doesn't have, many multiple stories. It doesn't have any modern architecture. There is a little cafe. There is a motel. They do have direct TV, but it's unbelievably small and humble. No one's getting rich off of this little cultural center. And the museum is like if you put together a single room and you threw a bunch of pictures in it with some display cases, and that's the entire thing. Now, the whole world knows who the Hopi are. Their art is renowned all over the world, but there is nobody wealthy there. The houses, I mean, it was amazing that in the middle of the night, I looked out over the desert and I remember taking a mental note that the desert was just this massive. You'll see in the video that the deserts are just vast. I mean, as far as you can see, just flat, and you'll see these monuments and mountains, way, way, way in the distance. And the incredible part about it is it looks just like desert. But at night, I saw what looked like thousands upon thousands of torches.
Really?
And I realized that these are people that live in the desert. And these are their fires. They're living in little huts.
Oh,
some of them are living in teepees. But see, you only get that there. I've gone to reservations all around the country, and even some other different Indian reservations of indigenous people around the world. In Australia, they're quite different than Australia. So I'm going to relegate this just to North America for the moment. That they are not anything like any of the other tribes. They do not have casinos. There is no alcohol at all anywhere. Every one of their houses are humble. Every single building is humble. There is no modern technology. There are no 5G towers. There are none of those things. There's no 5G. In fact, the entire time I was on the reservation, I couldn't get data at all. I could send text, but that was it. So I wouldn't call it depressed, but you certainly wouldn't call it a booming economic center.
Right.
And they prefer it that way. They have other people within the council, and the government has brought it up to say, hey, would you like casinos? Never. They're like, never, ever, ever. They are the only ones that seem to truly adhere to their prophecy. Now, also, keep in mind that they are surrounded by the Navajo. So the Hopi Reservation is literally surrounded by the Navajo Reservation. And the one thing, they won't share a whole lot with you, but they certainly will share that their problems, or they're not their problems, but their disdain for the altering of truth from the Navajo.
Interesting.
Yes, they will. They will let you know that go ask the Navajo. They'll tell you their version of it, right? So you can definitely sense that there's some tension. But for the most part, the Hopi are incredibly positive. They are what I would call the narrow gate. They're just steady. And now this goes to our deliverance and our ascension question again, Jeff, because what I recognized from them as a people and the conversations that I have with them is that they want you to find the truth on your own. They won't answer your question. They'll answer it or confirm it. And if you're close, they'll just say, perhaps, right? So they'll give you those types of things. They will never tell you what it is, but they'll confirm it. They'll say, that was well thought out, or you understand correctly, or you see rightly, right? So they'll confirm where you see something. So you have to be, it's like you're the only one talking. There isn't a conversation. But so going to this part where I say that they are flat. So that's the middle way. In Buddhism, it's the middle way. For Christ, it's the narrow gate, right? It's not good, it's not evil, it's in the middle. You're neutral to these things. So again, going to our things talking about ego. Disengaging is neutrality. Neutral is not disagreeing with something, because you have to recognize that, why do I need to agree with what they say? Right? So you're always looking for the neutral road.
Why do we need to disagree either, Derek?
That's the whole point. I disagree or I agree. Why do you even need to agree? Now, the only reason somebody wants to agree, and this is why they want to argue with somebody else. Now, I've said this many times that I've scolded, like if you scold your puppy, right? You got a little puppy and you scold him. The very first thing he's going to do is run to another deity and try to get the support of that.
Right.
Right? Go underneath their legs. Pet me, pet me. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Right? He's looking for that reassurance. And I always let them know, do not let that dog sit under your leg. You want to be upset at that dog too, because he now hasn't considered you. That puppy now has brought my angry eye over to you. And now you're coddling this dog. So now I'm not just scolding the dog, I'm scolding you too.
Derek, how do you properly disengage without looking like an ass? Or should you even worry?
Again, perception, right? If we are relegated, so this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you right now. If we're relegated in this world, and people are going to, they're going to try to make it this way, Jeff. They will try to force you into being in their world, just like these people in the chat room, right? They're going to try to force you in their thing, try to be in their little universe, because they're incredibly lonely. And they want somebody to support them, and they want to feel important. And unless they're arguing their point in their world, unless they're debating their thing, they're not important. They're not comfortable being important on their own. I could be alone in the desert by myself and never see another person and know that I'm really important to the Father.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to be talking to somebody to know that my consciousness has an impact on the rest of the world. Even if it's just small. You know why I know that? Because it's proven. If I take a rock and I throw it in the middle of a calm pond, does it cause waves that cover the entire pond?
Yes.
Yes. In the ocean too. Even if you can't see them, even if they're so small, you cannot play a role in this world without impacting it all. Your consciousness is the rock in the center of that pond. Your consciousness has that impact, right? So because of our insecurities, we build up these egos. Because of these insecurities, we need to be engaged. Because of these insecurities, we need to disagree and agree. And we want people to agree with us so we feel more secure in what we think that we know. These are all managed perceptions, okay? If you are relegated in your life to managing the perceptions of everybody else, what are you ever going to do to make yourself happy?
Right.
Right? And are they going to appreciate you managing their perception? No. They're going to take your perception for granted. And what I mean by that is our disease is this. I could pay your bills and take it, not you specifically, Jeff, but I could take somebody out there.
That'd be okay with me though, Derek. I wouldn't fight it.
No, but see, here's the whole thing. But you would have to be weary of that, because here's what happens. If you took care of somebody for 10 years, you paid all their bills, you bought them their car, you took care of them. And then after 10 years, you go, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. They'll hate you.
They will.
They will not think of the 10 years that you did it. They'll only see that you took it away. And this is our problem. I learned in my life that I was wrong for helping people too. This is the middle road. This is the middle. I was wrong for over helping people, because what was happening is I wasn't recognizing the condition of the other man's mind. So
Right.
the point being is that there were people that I had helped so much that they didn't have an identity absent of me. Everything that they had in their life, I had given them in their mind. Even though I didn't hold it as bondage over them, they did. And so they ended up hating me. And I was confused at that. And I'm like, wait a minute. It took me to die to myself to realize what a careless thing that was.
Right.
That I didn't let them have their own identity, though trying to help them. And this is why Christ said, give with your right hand and don't let what your left hand know what it did. In other words, if you're going to give to somebody, don't even let them know you're doing it. Try to make it secret all the way. Because all the way, because they'll hold themselves in bondage to you, even if you don't. You have to protect yourself against other people. Forget about managing their perception. You have to protect yourself against their mind. Because if they're not where you're at spiritually, they're a problem. That's pearls to the pigs.
That is.
Right? So if their soil is not ready, if their soil is not right, then you cannot be around them. You cannot be there. If somebody comes to me humbly, I know because they're coming asking for it. Do not go out and offer somebody advice ever. If they didn't ask you for it, forget it. Do not offer it.
Well, and if you didn't ask for it, you might think about not taking it, because free advice is worth every dime you pay for it.
Yes. And there is no such thing as free advice. It's always bondage. Like I said, somebody would come up to me and go, hey, I'm just letting you know, I'm warning you about that person. They're trying to take advantage of you. And I would say, stop, get away from me with that.
Off my cloud.
Get off my cloud. I owe you nothing. I didn't ask you for your assistance. I didn't want it. And you're trying to keep me in bondage. So later on you can go, hey, buddy, you owe me. Remember, I took care of you that one time. No, you don't get to come in and put me in bondage to you. So I saw a question earlier. I just wanted to answer where somebody asked, what are the Hopis waiting for? What is the missing piece that they're waiting for? The Hopi have a portion of a broken tablet. Broken tablets have existed all over the world with these ancient people. And some of them have been found. I believe that Joseph Smith found some of the ancient tablets, which are locked up and this is why they have a portion of the truth. This is why they know where some lost tribes are. These tablets are in the hands of other people, different sets of different tablets. Now, the Hopi have a broken piece of tablet, and there is a piece that is missing from that tablet, and the person that brings them that broken piece from the tablet and understands their prophecies and understands the things and secrets that they haven't disclosed and that aren't disclosed, he'll bring that portion of that tablet, and that person will be Pahana, which is a white man. So that's what, just to answer that question, I just saw that pop up really quick, and I know that people came here.
Powerful.
But yeah.
Derek, how would you recommend that people die to self?
Now, when people ask me that, I think it's different for every single person. So let me just say this. If somebody said, and even if they don't have the wherewithal, because I truly believe that dying to yourself is far more important than anything else you'll ever do. Far more important. That you must experience it. Now, keep in mind that it's not something that you're going to accomplish, and it's like you've arrived and you have it. Oh, hey, I got this, and now I'll never lose it again. Believe me, you're constantly walking around with it like this, going, I never want to lose this. You always keep it in sight, right? When scripture says, I will write my name on their forehead, right? And then it speaks of the beast. I will write my name on the name will be written on their hand and their forehead. It's all you ask for, and it's all you think about. Having the Father's name written on your forehead and knowing him inside of you, that's this. You're like, oh, nope, it's right here. It's all I think about. You're constantly trying to keep that there. It is a Discipline. This is why they're called disciples. It is a daily discipline. You do not just obtain something, put it in your pocket like a possession. So if you think that's the case, forget it. Don't even try. If that's what you're trying to do. Dying to yourself, I would suggest to anybody, is to take yourself outside of everything that you know. Because first and foremost, you have to be uncomfortable. Until you're uncomfortable, and I mean uncomfortable, until you learn to be comfortable in that discomfort, you're never going to be honest with yourself. So put yourself in a place where you're uncomfortable physically, and then you'll all of a sudden understand that you're uncomfortable mentally and spiritually, and that's where you need to be. Because you're not going to be able to be honest with yourself. You're not going to be able to reach down inside of yourself and rip your ego to shreds. You're not going to be able to be truthful about the things that you've done. You got to take an inventory during that. As soon as you're exposed to that and you're vulnerable and you're willing to shred yourself inside and you're uncomfortable with it, once you become comfortable with being uncomfortable, you will begin searching for those things inside, no longer hiding them. What you did to your mom when you were 15 years old, what you hid from that person when you did that over there, what you did or thought about that person, the thing where that person has gone through life and didn't ever know. They never knew that you did something against them. But you'll go and dig all of those things out. And once you've done that, and you find the joy in how elevated you feel, because as you get rid of those things, guess what happens? Ooh, you start ascending.
Absolutely.
Right? So the ascension, as you shred all of the things that you've done, when you're okay in that humility, you're willing to accept the fact that I'm going to tell everybody out there, I'm going to give you some examples of things. Guys, you're going to accept the fact that you might have actually had a homosexual thought, that you might have thought that. Deal with it. Stop avoiding it. Women, you're going to do the same thing. Women, you've done some things with some dudes that you would never, ever tell anybody, and you think no one knows. Trust me, you know, and that's more important than anything. The only thing that matters is that you know it. And if you know it, and even if you think that you've forgotten about it, dig it out. Somebody says, oh, bury that, forget about that. Dig all of that crap out, all of it. And then once you've brought it out, you're going to now seek forgiveness from those people, especially the ones that you've hurt, but not because you're trying to put crap on your shelf and go, see, I've sought forgiveness. You're now doing it to release them for what you've done against them, right? You did something. You want to release them from that, because as long as you haven't sought forgiveness, they're still in bondage to that. And you want to get rid of that. You want to get rid of that because that will prevent it from you getting rid of it inside of you. So you're going to them, you're forgiven of these things. You know, you're like, I'm forgiven of these things, but I don't ever want to be able to rehash this against myself. So let's say that you bullied somebody when you were a kid and that kid killed himself. You better find his family and you better seek forgiveness, even if they don't forgive you. But you've done everything you possibly can, so you will never be able to have that held against you. Because, as I've said, the enemy is within you. He is the great accuser. He'll bring it back up. You will bring it back up to yourself, and you will use it against yourself right when it's needed and right when you're the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. So it's not an easy way at all, is it?
No, there is nothing easy about this. There is nothing easy about this. And this is why, I could right now, Jeff, somebody says to me, it's amazing that I get accused of trying to get wealthy or stuff. Let me just help anybody listening understand this. With what I do in my background, I can build a business plan and raise $5 million for any technology business, any business I want to do tomorrow. There are much easier ways for me to make money. I don't need it. I don't want it. I never want it. I don't want to have anything to do with it because I don't want it to corrupt me and adjust how I say things the minute I need something or want something. I would rather starve. I'd rather go hungry. I'd rather smell. I'd rather have dirty clothes. I would rather not have all those things. I'd rather not alter myself and rather these clothes get dirty. I could care less about this. This is temporary. So it just goes to show you that people cannot, this is the brokenness of it for them. They can't comprehend them doing it, so they could never believe you doing it. It becomes a testimony against themselves. And why does somebody have to even point at you? Or why do you have to point at somebody and say something about them going, you're just doing that for yourself? You're praying that that would be a truthful statement. Because if they can't, when somebody attacks you, Jeff, if I said to you, oh, Jeff, you're just doing this because you want to get rich. If I'm that guy on the outside saying that, okay, what am I doing? I'm trying to reinforce myself that you're not as good as you're appearing to be, because otherwise I'm a real dick.
Right.
Right? I'm trying to avoid dealing with myself. So I have to diminish who you are in order to stop from dealing with myself. So this goes to everything about going through this transformation, this transmutation. Your DNA will change. The enemy has you. When they come to Neo and says the Matrix has you, it's the truth. The Matrix does have you. The enemy has you. He still has your mind. Even many of you that think you need to be free, if you're battling with ego every single day and you're still having arguments with people and you're still trying to convince people, just be. If you can't go away by yourself and sit in a corner for a week straight, you still got ego. You have to be willing to do that. You have to be okay with that and comfortable with that. Because when you're in that corner by yourself, all you have to think about is you. So the reason why we don't want to be in a corner by ourselves, this is boring, right? No, it's not boring. You're going to start recognizing who you are inside. It's a very uncomfortable thing. Being alone by yourself, you only have you to think about. So that's what I suggest. Somebody wants to die to themselves and start that process. Separate yourself from everything. Find a tent, find a place way out in the woods, not a campsite, way out in the woods. You could be by some water, but be uncomfortable. You're going to be crapping in the woods. You're probably not going to shower, right? Be uncomfortable and get comfortable there and begin to take an inventory. There is real transformation that takes place in that. And do not leave until you have made progress. And if you can't stay there long, do it for 2 days. Leave, come back. But make it a practice. Make a discipline in your life of being uncomfortable. You know, they would call it suffering. Yes, suffer in this flesh a bit, because it's not until you suffer in this body that you're going to want to flee it.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't intentionally, do this, but for about 3 years, I lived like, I didn't have a bed. I had like a Japanese mat on the floor. I, lived very, very frugally. And I really I literally got comfortable being uncomfortable. And I got comfortable being around myself just by myself.
Yeah, in fact, you'll find that you really don't like it when anybody else is around.
You don't.
They pollute it.
I went through years of that. I was called a hermit. What are you trying to be, a monk? And I guess I really was.
It's I'm telling you, it is a beautiful thing. People could say, oh, well, that's unproductive. It's the most productive thing you will ever do. The most productive thing you will ever do. I would right now, if I didn't feel that I was supposed to be out here having these conversations with all of you, I would so quickly have my ass in the mountains by myself in a cave. You have no idea. That is home, right? Why on earth would I want to be around people like these people that were attacking, right? Why would I want to even tolerate this? Why wouldn't I want to sit with my truth in the divine spirit of God, communing with God every single minute of the day? Why would I want to disturb that? And have somebody come in and try to put their will or their opinions or their crap about their version of the religion, right? The most nonsensical things in the world, that somebody goes after people like these two clowns here. You and I are seeking the divine. We're the last people that somebody else that supposedly is seeking the divine should be attacking, right? The most unproductive thing points to that it's ego, full stop, period. You're just dealing with demons. That's all they are, demons, right? It's an ego demon, and they're going to attack. The most unproductive thing in the world. I have no time for them. Neither do you. Leave them. But if I've got to be here, and I can teach with them, look, a karate teacher can't teach his students how to karate without kicking somebody's ass. Okay? I'm happy to do it.
Absolutely. Sometimes you know, what's the old saying? You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah. I mean, how am I gonna teach you, Jeff? I'm either gonna throw you around the dojo, or I'm gonna have to throw somebody else around the dojo to teach you a little bit of kung fu.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 black belts. I've been thrown around, so I know exactly what you're saying.
I did 16 years of traditional Japanese Shotoshinkai. So. Oh
wow, great. Yeah, I mean that, and martial arts is kind of an interesting analogy to spiritual growth, because there's a lot of correlations between the two.
Yes, unfortunately, martial arts doesn't teach it the way that it should be taught. Kind of like in the Shaolin temples, that they don't teach you how to punch. They don't teach you how to punch, and then until they've taught you how to be free from yourself.
Right.
Right.
Which is the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, go talk to the samurai, right? You don't even get to pick up a sword until you don't even have a name, right? So until you've completely removed yourself from this world, and then they're like, now you're equipped to handle the sword.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Derek, somebody asked this a while back, and let's close with this if we can. They said, I think they simply said, so Derek, what do you think is going to happen?
What do I think is going to happen with?
I think their idea was, what do you think is going to happen as far as what's going to happen with the end of the world, quote unquote, that whole thing?
You love my dance. Thanks.
That dance was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's poppin', lock, and dubstep, and did all that. People don't know this, but I was the choreographer of the in 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. Lionel Richie had 300 breakdancers around the stage. You can look it up and say closing ceremonies, Lionel Richie, and you'll see all the breakdancers. I was the choreographer of the breakdancers. Awesome. So, and then did some work with Lionel from there. So myself and Cuba Gooding Jr., we were both in there. So, so what is going to happen? That's an entire show, but the other thing is that it's not about anybody that is worried about what's going to happen. I'm not going to beat up on you, but I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter. If I told you that everything's going to be bad, right? And that the only way that you could prepare was spiritually. Because what happens is, if you think you know the design of the destruction, then you begin, in your ego, to try to negotiate with what you should do to survive it. There is no negotiations with what is coming. There is no negotiations. There is only humility, full stop. There is only dying to yourself, because what is going to come will never match. Because of what they speak of. Think about this. When Scripture speaks of the things that come, if we have a complete compression of dimensions, let's say that we have 14 dimensions that compress down to this one dimension, even if just for a year or two, and you have to contend with and battle with things you couldn't even describe, that in Scripture times they're trying to describe it. We're more modern society. We might actually be better at describing it than they would for a future generation. But if this takes place, and the destruction and the battles that you don't even have the ability to battle it, when you're talking Scripture of parents eating their own children because of the famine, that they have no spirit anymore. There is no love. There is none of that. The only way that you're going to survive it and not be consumed within it is to be the only one with love, that there might literally be that few of people. That if you don't learn to love yourself and to love the people that are around you, you're never going to make it. And negotiating about how you're going to survive it, I can just tell you, it's going to be bad. If you want to know, I would rather point you to the books of Enoch. Just read about those. Read the books of Enoch. Understand that these are prophecies. They're not prophecies because somebody is a seer and they're looking into a crystal ball. They're telling you what has already happened before. Okay? This has happened before. It's pretty easy to describe to them, and they're trying to describe it, but within the limitations of their language, right? We would say, hey, it was a flying saucer. They're like, it's a spinning wheel and it has a wheel within a wheel, right? But all of these things, you can't be prepared for this. So we can go through those, and those are quite honestly, and not to disrespect anybody here, those are conversations that I have with monks, right? To what to expect. That's a conversation that I have with the Hopi. It's a conversation that I have with people that I know that are prepared spiritually. It would be irresponsible of me to tell you exactly what that is until you're prepared spiritually, because then I'm actually guiding you in the wrong direction. And that's all I am, as a guide.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like what you're saying, and if I'm off base, let me know. Instead of thinking about, should I buy gold? Should I buy a bunker? Should I buy Bitcoin? Should I buy life straws? What we really should be doing is going inside, doing the inside job, destroying our ego, dying to self. And then once we complete that process, we could start thinking about some of those other things possibly. Or probably once we did that, we wouldn't worry about the other things.
Yeah, that's the point, is that once you do that, you recognize you're actually relieved. Because
that's when you start drawing the dotted line on your neck saying, okay, cut me here.
Copy that, man. Let's get this on, right? Get me out of this prison.
Because when you get to that place where you've died to self, and you get to that place where you've died to ego, you realize this isn't you. And when whatever happens, it's a promotion.
It is a promotion. This is not me. This is the most reduced version of me, right? You can't it's amazing that somebody, if I said to you, this is the whole point. Christ said, you want to enter the kingdom of God, you got to be like a little child. Take off your clothes, throw them on the street and dance on them, right? When you recognize that all of this is a demotion of who you are, you have been demoted to nothing. You are a smelly, yes, you are a smelly, nasty creature. And the enemy convinces you to love it and fight for eternal life in this crap. This is a death trap. Everything about this is death. Everything dies here. What could you possibly want to stick around death for? Think about that. This earth, she's beautiful, she's mom, but she's also trapped in the death trap. This is why, in the end, the lion is laying down with the lamb. They're no longer eating each other. They're eating the grass again. Everything has been convinced and altered in order to appease the bloodthirsty aspect of the enemy, of the archons, of the draconians. We are in a death trap. And you know how you solve a death trap? By everybody dying. And if you can't die physically all at the same time, well, then you die spiritually to this flesh all at the same time, to where you're no longer viable food. We're no longer their sheep and cattle. They can consume us and it doesn't do anything. It's like empty calories.
Because we've changed our frequency and our resonance, our harmonics.
Absolutely. You're now just empty calories. You're not going to fill them up. It's like tasteless food.
Wow. So we are really on a journey to become tasteless.
Yes. You're trying to destroy the appetite of the enemy, right? You don't want to be his food. Well, you got to stop acting like it.
That's amazing stuff, Derek. That is amazing stuff. Wow. So how do people find you and find out more about the work that you do?
Just to my channel, YouTube/Global Witness 1260.
And it's in the box below.
Yes, I believe you have it in the description. So that's where you find it. And there will be a point in time here. Malia and I will be, we will be somewhere out here opening an actual physical church where people can come and study and die to themselves.
Is this going to be like a Sunday go to church kind of place?
Can you imagine me running a Sunday go to church kind of place? Seriously, no. Jeff? Say, well, there you go. I can tell you, to others on the outside, it'll look like a church. It won't have a cross, but I'm sure that it'll look like a church to people, and I'm sure they'll walk in and they'll probably hear. And I think that you and I will probably have a little bet, even though I don't have a bet. We'll have like a little side bet about how long it'll take before people try to burn it down. But
yeah. That's interesting. So you're really going to do that?
Yeah, I would like to have a place for not the masses. I would like to have a place for people that when they do want to come and truly live under a discipline, to come and get hard truths, right? I'm not going to, where I'm not concerned about you putting money in the bucket, right? You're going to come in here. I'm going to give you the truth. And there's other people that are going to give you the truth. And we'll have a place. If you want to come and stay, it's going to be uncomfortable. So call it a voluntary prison, so to speak, right? You're going to come and you're going to live a very uncomfortable place. You're going to become a monk to a degree. And that's really what it becomes. It becomes and that's why you almost have to register it as a monastery where nobody can come on and invade that space, right? It is a monastery because that's what you truly need to try to obtain is become a monk for a week. Become a monk for a day. What does that mean? You don't have impure thoughts. You're separating yourself from all these things.
Powerful stuff, Derek. That's going to be great.
We'll see, and then you can come out and visit. I'll have a cell for you.
Absolutely, I'd like to have a cell because I mean it's you always we're very holy about saying the more I learn, the more I really need to learn, and we pat ourselves on the back for these kind of things, and then you realize that it's really true. The further you get, the further you realize you have to go, and that's kind of been a place where I've been the last couple of months is realizing, wow, I thought I was achieving some level of proficiency, but I went to this next level and realized, wow, there's a whole lot more levels to go.
And that's inevitably what happens. And that's what I'll inform everybody is that don't ever think that you've arrived. Okay. That's the biggest mistake ever. I can tell you from personal experience, and Jeff is telling you that from his experience. Don't ever think you've arrived, because the minute you think you do, that level will be wiped out. Look at it as the onion. You peel the layer of onion off and you go, oh, I've arrived. All of a sudden, something comes and rips a layer of that onion right off too.
And what happens, Derek? You start crying. You
start crying. And let me tell you what really arriving is stripping that onion all the way down where your tiny little heart, where that's just this little thing. Okay. And believe it or not, you go to the heart of that onion, it doesn't even smell like onion. Okay, so when you get right down into that little tiny heart, it doesn't smell like onion. It doesn't taste like onion. It was nothing like all of those layers. You want to get rid of those things. The transmutation. You're going from a worm to the butterfly, like Tracy says. Transmutation.
And then you fly away.
Yep. And today I was having a conversation with Malia, and I can't tell you how often this happens. First of all, two things. I'm going to tell you a story. That once you are, when you don't exude that energy, if you ever want evidence of how your energy pattern changes, I'm talking to Malia on video, and there's a road runner, and he makes the little beep beep sound, except it's like, right? They go, it's a little snap, their beat goes, and I went, and it looks, and it's turning its head and listening, and I go, and it came running up, and on video, I'm showing her, I'm like, watch this, and this road runner walks around, big, beautiful bird. They're probably, a foot tall and, foot and a half big. They're pretty big. And here I'm talking to this bird, and it's going back at me and walks right up in front of my feet and looking at me. Now that doesn't happen, right? When you're exuding the crap energy of this world, that bird is looking at you like a beast.
Yeah.
When you're in the spirit and you're not, I'm loving that bird. That bird, it was no fear of me whatsoever. And then so I'm talking to Malia. We're talking about these this transmutation and her coming out. And she says, I'm so looking forward to that. And I said, well, just as a confirmation of that, this big, beautiful monarch that was probably that big, huge monarch, comes and lands on the table right next to me and just sits there flapping its wings. And I'm like, well, confirmation, all of these things show me that, because that doesn't happen. Birds don't land on you unless you're in the spirit. They don't walk up to your feet, right? When you flee from this world, other things will react that way to you. People will come and attack you demonically because you're now a mirror that reflects them. And now every single time they see you, they recognize what a schmuck they are. So they're going to attack you for it. But for the most part, you're the easiest person in the world to communicate with. You're the easiest person in the world to be around because you're love.
Yeah.
You love, you don't judge.
Reminds me of Sandra sitting out on her porch meditating and has a dove land on her arm. A dove. And we're sitting there in the condo that she used to live in, and we look out straight out about 50 feet up in the air, and in the little crux of a palm tree, there's sitting a dove and this big, huge lizard serpent right next to each other, cuddled up. And of course, our channel is serpent and dove. So these things don't happen
by accident.
And they don't happen without a whole lot of water going over the dam.
Absolutely not. Well, let me give a couple shout outs to some regulars. Love Matters, thank you very much. Yes, you and Jamie, I think you two are the biggest spammers on my comment list, but I love you anyway. Not spam, it's just you comment a lot. I love you very much. Tracy, everybody, thank you guys for joining the show tonight. I really appreciate it. I love Jeff. Jeff and I have become quick, fast friends. Even though I wouldn't call that thin, I would say far more emotionally attached. I think there's too many synchronicities, and I have a real heart for Jeff and Sandra. So I really appreciate that. It's funny that Jeff, I wanted to tell you that somebody came up, and just to give you an idea, somebody wrote me a comment on Facebook, and he was a listener, right? And he thinks he knows the truth, and just how, we get, again, our ego and arrogance. And he's like, why would you be friends with Jeff Doherty and all of these comments? And I'm calling you out, bros. Anytime I see something like that, I'm like, goodbye. I'm calling you out. Like, there's some authority, they're the arbiters of truth. And just
absolutely,
the ego is so crazy to look at that, and they don't see it, but he's calling you out. Why are you? And all I did is I was like, you know what? If he thinks, again, so just like Christ would address how people thought, right?
Right.
I did the same with him. He said, why are you need to tell me, why are you, hooking up and being friends with Jeff Doherty? I mean, he's like Satan himself and blah, blah, blah. And I just quoted Christ back to him. I said, I came for those that are sick, not those that are well.
That's right.
And you know what he said? That's bullshit. You didn't answer the question, bros. I'm going to go after you. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to whatever. Goodbye. Right. But it's amazing. You don't even get to use his words. They say that they're from him, and you use his words. And here's the thing. You could say the same thing for me. I'm going to let you know, folks, there's no ego involved in this. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm in this. I'm still sick. Okay. As long as we're in this, we're going to battle our illness minute by minute. Make no mistake about it. The difference is the willing to battle it, the will to self-correct. Do you have the will to self-correct? When you say something stupid, swallow that, go seek forgiveness. The longer you wait, the bigger problems are going to be. Address these things and self-correct, like autocorrect on your phone. You say something wrong, before you hit enter, before it gets too far, before it does too much damage, autocorrect, go back, fix it. Don't let this stuff rest. Just because you convince everybody else around you and yourself that you didn't do a bad thing doesn't mean it's not on your soul and not weighing on you. Those things catch up with you. and they will cause you to do lots of other things that you didn't want to do. Those are demons, and those are the cracks that they use to infiltrate you.
Absolutely. Very well said. And Derek, I think we've come to the end of our time for this edition. I have a feeling we're going to do this again sometime.
We will.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you very much for all the help and assistance that you've been to me, both personally and professionally. I thank you for everything that you are. And, people say, well, why would you listen? Because I want to. That's it.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, somebody says, it's so funny. I got to tell you this real short story. That's what I love about Malia. The very first time that we ever talked, and she was talking about something, I said, people ask me why I wear black. And she said, you tell them because I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I'm in love.
It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Well, folks, for Derek Rose, Global Witness, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. Thanks for being here on the New Cosmic Knowledge channel. Derek, if you'd sit there for a minute so I can say goodbye to you, I'd appreciate it. The divinity in me does recognize the divinity in you. I do salute you for being here, seeking after truth. And for Sandra D, I am Jeffrey Daugherty, thanking you for being with us. And we'll see you again real soon here on the New Cosmic Knowledge channel. If you want help from us, visit serpentanddove.org, rawreflections.org, or jeffreydaugherty.com. And Derek, do you have a website as well?
Not yet. It's going up. We will have Red Letter Disciples, redletterdisciples.com, and still doing another one. We're going to be putting together a website with a bunch of us where we can have an aggregated amount of content where it'll also be duplicated in case YouTube gets a little funky, and we'll have a place. So I'm building
absolutely
that.
Fantastic. Yeah. And even though I know it's cliche, I think it is a powerful activator in harmony and frequency. So I am going to leave you by saying love and light. And with that, we will see you again real soon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank everyone for being here. It is an honor to be a part of your life and to have you share yours with ours. And we'll see you again real soon.